No. Hello, Zachary. I'm Gabriela Chan. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Gabriela. Yes, I can.
Oh, I was worried that I didn't get the proper link. How are you?
I'm doing.
Fine. Everything is fine. I read I have to connect 10 minutes before and it was not possible. So I know.
We're,
Thank you.
we are excited to have you today. I'm looking forward to your talk. Can you turn on your video, your camera?
Yes, it is.
Oh, pleasure.
No, is the people already gathered? No, I think we are still early. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I would say we can wait a minute or two. I know
yes.
There's probably a lot more participants that are going to come. And I would invite all the people listening today to turn on your cameras so Gabriela can see who she is speaking to. Where you're calling in from today. We love to see our global community and know where everybody's from. And I just want to welcome all of the Unit Master students back. Congratulations. We're turning on live transcriptions. But I just want to congratulate everyone on going all the way to week 5 in Unit Masters. Really excited for Cohort 11. There's some other exciting announcements that I'll make a little bit later on when more participants are present. And just encourage people during the talk that if you have questions, feel free to put them right into the chat. And then after Gabriela gives her talk, we can come back and answer those questions. So why don't, without further ado, other people will be joining, but we're recording. I would love to just give a quick intro to Gabriela. She's been involved in blockchain since 2017, and she promotes its enormous potential as a catalyst for the SDGs. Gabriela is a frequent speaker and panelist in both crypto and impact forums, and she runs EticHub, right? In this session, she'll be talking about DeFi and how you can be connected to the real world to leverage on blockchain technology to solve real world problems in a sustainable and regenerative way, creating the proper crypto incentives for a shared value model and a more inclusive economic system for everyone. So Gabriela, I would love if there's other things that you want to add to let the audience know just a little bit more of your background, what projects you've been involved with, and what brought you here.
Thank you, Zachary. Thank you to Unit Masters organizers for this meeting, and for all of you for your time and interest on refi and all the amazing things that can be done with this technology. Aside from what Zach already said, and my background is I'm an industrial designer, but I worked for many years to the Secretary of Economic Development in Chiapas in Mexico. And I was also an organic coffee producer. So I'm quite aware of the problems of the agro, especially for the smallholder farmers that were my neighbors and were the people we work with at the Secretary. And we've seen the huge problems that arise for this lack of functionality of the traditional financial system that has excluded a quarter of the world population. So I will talk about that a bit later. But it was in general, like what brought me to Unit Masters here today. That I was invited because we got in contact. One of your students, it's our neighbors, and she comes to visit us quite often here in Madrid. And she get us in contact. It's like people building networks of people that is interested into the same value, into sharing the knowledge around something that we think it's very powerful and we need to make it go in the right direction. So I would like to say a small story. When I think, and I would love everyone to think a bit about this for yourselves, your memories regarding nature. When I was a child, I remember the fireflies in my garden. I remember a lot of things that are not there anymore, but especially since I'm always been in contact with rainforest because I was a coffee producer and because of my environment in Chiapas, I remember my father telling me that in that street over there where now there's a bank or something, the city used to end there. And then 5 kilometers over there, they were little tigers, there were armadillos, there were toucans, you know, lots of animals that are no longer there. So when I grow up and I have my own children, I was thinking I should record all of this to make pictures or something for when it is lost, I can tell them. And then I said, wait a moment. Why should I take it for granted that it's going to disappear and I won't do anything else but to register it for the memories of the other, just to see them in pictures, but not to enjoy what this huge biodiversity is? Because in my lifespan, I mean, I'm 55 and I've seen mountains getting deployed from trees in decades. You know, I can see how it is evolving in a very negative way. And I think most of us, I mean, if you are 5 years old, not, but anyone that is a young adult, I would love you to think of what was nature during your childhood and what is it now. So I think that's like the heart around what EticHub evolves, because I decided that I had to do something. And that parting from the problem I knew, I wanted a solution to work around this, to save this biodiversity that is related to agriculture, that is related to the way of living of the people in these lands. So I took advantage, I leveraged on me being kind of a bridge, because I live between two worlds, between Europe and Latin America. And we were thinking, my co-founding team and I, why is it so that in the same level of risk, a farmer in India or a farmer in Latin America has to pay so much more interest than a farmer in the same level of risk in Europe? And this is because money has a different value depending on the part of the world it is located. So we start thinking about ways of building a technological and economical bridge to connect complementary economic regions. And so this is kind of the start. I don't know exactly if we should move forward into the presentation, or if you want to wait a little bit for, let me know.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much. And I think it's so important that as we talk about technology, as we talk about Web3, as we move into this virtual digital future, that we also remember those conversations about nature, about what it was for us, about what it is, and about how we're going to stay connected. I say we've got almost 50 people in the room now. It's recorded. So I'd say let's jump in and go into the presentation. And again, I encourage all of the people as they're listening to her talk to keep that line of connection to nature and to what it meant to you as a child. Thank you, Gabriela.
Thank you. Okay, so in order to have a more interactive relation here, if you have questions when I'm talking, you can. I'm not able to read if I'm presenting, but I will be able to listen to you if you want to connect and ask something. Okay, so moving forward, so I decided we have to solve this problem, and all this technology is related to the solution. It's an amazing tool to bring solutions, and I will talk about later. So I gathered a brave team of innovators that were daring to prove that new models were possible. And good news is that we are not talking only about blockchain, Internet of Things, 3D printers, biotech, clean energy. There's a lot of technology out there already working to solve the problems. But let's remember that they are just tools, and tools are good or evil depending upon how we use them. So I believe crypto is the catalyst for all this evolution to move into the positive way. And then here comes the title of the presentation. So I will share my screen. Let me know once it is open. And, sorry. Here we are. So when we start talking about capitalism and sustainability, which is the title of this group of sessions, I would like you to think about money first. Quite often, we focus on the monetary value of money, and we forget it is just a tool to provide well-being and happiness. Capitalism, it's a powerful system to create value. Actually, this was what allowed all the investigation, all the research to evolve to the point of evolution that we are now. But again, quite often we think only on monetary capital, and we forget, for example, social and environmental resources are capital too. I like to use an example of the chairs. When we build a chair, we consider the cost of wood, the cost of a carpenter, the paint, the store, the marketing and everything. But you didn't take in account the tree. I mean, wood come out of trees. And when you cut down a tree to take the wood to build the chairs, that's also capital. And you never has revenue on spite of capital. So I think the wrong equation is that we haven't put all the expenses into the account. So that's why we consider we are in debt, and we have to put together all the capital, because capital is also social and environmental. So this is like the parting point regarding this. And then I would love to talk about ReFi, regenerative finance. EticHub is an impact project, a social project, and we are for profit. And this means we generate more value than the one we extract. Vitalik Buterin has a beautiful conference when he talked about common good. Common good is very important, but if we expect volunteers to do it just pro bono, we'll have the brightest minds not working on solving the biggest problems, because it's not profitable. And you need to spend your whole life doing something that generates common value, and it also generates a value for yourself. So this is how EticHub was born. Sorry, we were pioneers back in 2018, using smart contracts to do crowd lending, to connect complementary economic regions. So Europeans could invest into these farmers to help them improve their productivity. So they grow through their own work. And then after 3 years of working with them and using the smart contracts, we developed what is our actual protocol, a crowd collateral to support crowd lending. And the problem we were addressing is what the World Bank calls the unbanked, which is a quarter of the world population excluded from the financial system. We are talking about 2 billion people. 70% of these unbanked are smallholder farmers, producing a third of our food. And they live in poverty despite having productive activities, because of the current system is not for them. Why? Because they don't have data, so you cannot make a risk evaluation based in data, and they don't have valid assets. I mean, in the case of coffee, they produce 80% of the global production, but they have 1 or 2 hectares that are of no interest as an asset for the banks. So imagine that you have a 1-year crop. You need to borrow to eat, to work, for everything. And if no one is willing to give you credit for work, the only access to working capital they have, it's from the shark loans. It's local cash loans, very small and very expensive. They quite often pay over 100% interest for this little money. And that's why it is called the poverty trap. Because quite often they get the money and they are conditioned to pay back the money with the harvest. So when they pay the debt, the harvest is bought at a very low price. So maybe they get money, they pay the debt, and they get money for 1 or 2 months, and then they have to borrow again. That's a poverty trap. And worst of all is that they are good payers, but there's no record to prove they are good payers. So this loop repeats year after year. So they practically live to cover for very basic needs. And if you don't mind about coffee, or if you're not if you think you don't depend on agriculture, think about these environmental consequences I was talking about. In the case of coffee, shade-grown coffee is cultivated in this sustainable way under the shades of trees. But if farmers cannot make a living out of coffee, they will cut down these trees and plant, for example, corn. Coffee is grown in heavy rainy areas, so corn is not suitable for it. So after 2 or 3 years, there's no more corn, and there's a devastated mountain, a devastated environment, losing a very huge amount of biodiversity. And then they migrate either to Europe or to the United States, and there's a huge loss. Let's think the poorest people in the world lives in the greenest areas of it. So it's very relevant to make a balance out of it. So also our sustainable or supply chain is a pre-internet one. We have too many intermediaries, and the weakest link of this supply chain are the small farmers. So in EticHub, we are focusing on eliminating unnecessary intermediaries and to finance this shorter supply chain to make the farmers get a benefit for the services they are providing to the world. And this is a paradox, what we leverage on. Having these negative rates we have in Europe for our money in the banks, while in the other part of the world, we have millions of people paying this absurd interest. So we say, why don't we connect them and generate a win-win situation? That's what we've done. And crowd lending was growing very fastly back in those years, and now also, but it was only within the countries. I mean, within Spain, within the United States, within Mexico. And blockchain allowed for this crowd lending to become global because the cost of the transferences was very, very affordable, very low. We are working with Gnosis blockchain now, for example, for lending, and 500 transactions cost less than 1 cent of dollar. Imagine the enormous differences it makes for the transference of money. So our focus, our solution is a third way where other fintech solutions don't work. As we were talking, they don't have data to be evaluated upon this information, and they don't have assets that are valid. So for this profile of farmers, we develop what we call crowd collateral. That is where third parties can stake collateral, can stake guarantees on behalf of the farmers. And we have created a global community that benefits from interacting. So we have the loan originators, which are usually cooperatives or NGOs that are already in contact with the farmers. It's kind of a local partner that understands the local reality, because we cannot pretend to have a global solution to solve all these millions of tiny problems with the farmers. So this is a loan originator. And he validates that the farmers are trustworthy, because obviously in a lending platform, in a lending protocol, you need the money to be paid back. So yeah, the selection of the farmers, it's all the system is based on theory of games and circles of trust. So the loan originators are in contact with the communities of farmers, and they organize them to work financially with them. But they do not provide only money, because that wouldn't be sustainable. That would be very expensive to do the due diligence, to go and visit a farmer that lives 2 hours away from the city, walking, and the amount of money they need is very small. So they need to have a sustainable relationship. For example, to be fertilizer providers or to be the processors of the seeds. Imagine that you are a fertilizer seller, distributor, and you want to give fertilizer to these small farmers, but they don't have money to pay you. So you would need to give them credit, but you don't have the economical possibility to do so. That's where EticHub comes in. So you can work with them, and your benefit comes from the fertilizer, not from the money lended. So, for example, NGOs, they can provide infrastructure, but they cannot provide working capital. So that's where we get in. So auditors are the figures validating the originators. In these first times, EticHub is the first auditor, but now we are happy to tell that we have partnerships with ICA International, and we're working also with I will announce that officially very soon. So, but it's a very well-known NGO working with agriculture in the world to reduce poverty. So these are the two validators of the lending. And then the investors are two profiles of them. We have the low-risk lender with a fixed reward, with a fixed return for its investing. And then we have the high risk, high return profile. These are more the crypto users, because low risk lenders provide working capital, while ethics stakers provide the collateral. These ones lend money, this other lends warranties to make sure the investors won't risk their money. It's a de-risking system. I will explain that a bit later. How it works? Well, the lenders buy bonds or lend the money through a stable coin, and the stakers provide the collateral to the compensation system. So in case there was a default, the lending would be compensated with the tokens. They will be sold, so the investors wouldn't lose their profits. And I moved too fast. So at the end, we have developed two very easy to use apps. One app is for lending working capital, and the other app is for staking tokens to lend them collateral. So sometimes they say it sounds too good to be true. So we have lots of recognitions and awards. We are one of the most recognized projects working on this intersecting point between real world and DeFi. And it has been a huge challenge, because now you are familiar with blockchain. Now you are here with unit masters and you have heard what blockchain is. But imagine 4 or 5 years ago, telling traditional investors that we wanted to do this with blockchain, they were reluctant. But imagine telling the Digents that we are working with the real world with poor farmers, they would say, no, that's too much risk. But we believe the true value of this technology is precisely into connecting it to the real world, to the productive economy of the real world. And now that we are in bear market, it's a wonderful opportunity, it's the positive side, to say that we are a resilient model, that we are winter-proof, because the 8% profitability from our platform, from our lending, doesn't come from financial derivatives, but comes from the real economy, the real markets from coffee. And even in bear market, the staked tokens account for more than 10 times the lead credit. We have lended almost $2 million in microloans with 1.2 default, less than 2% default. So there's not been a lot of risk either for the stakers. And as I was saying, crypto is the catalyst, because the catalyst for development, because it allows to create the proper incentives. So in the case of our system, how it works, the trustworthy platform attracts more investors. If there is more volume of lending, it generates a sustainable demand for the token, because it is needed to have access to the lending, to the borrowing system. And also 4% of every loan goes to buy tokens from the market and to stake it into this compensation system, making it more robust and secure. So the platform is more it's more secure, so it attracts more investors, and that would be the loop. On the right, we have the tokenomics, the token distribution. We created 100 million ethics. 50% are locked into the compensation system because the main goal of our token is to be the collateral for these farmers to reduce the perception of risk that investors have of this kind of profile. Then 25% is to create the proper incentives along 16 years. That is, all the rewards, all the yield that the stakers get comes from this 25%. Then 10% belongs to the company, to the equity company, to align the investors with the token. 10% belongs to the team and is vested for 3 years. That's to commit ourselves until the project is grown. And 5% was sold in 2018 to provide the funding to start the project. We are very proud of our team. I will talk a little bit of them. Jori Jan Brewster is probably one of the persons who better understand DeFi in Spain, and I would say in Europe. He was the CEO of a company with over 800 employees. He has a lot of experience in the entrepreneurial area, but he also managed his family coffee estate in Mexico, so he's well aware of the on-field problems. As I said already, I work in the Secretary of Economic Development, and I'm quite familiar also with the coffee industry. We say coffee, it's like the book for Amazon. We started with coffee because it's something we understand very well, but then we are extrapolating it to other agroforestry crops like cocoa or cashews. Diego Pardilla was its co-founder, and he was already in the crypto space since 2013 when he was prototyping a Bitcoin crowd lending. And then he met us and he said, I joined efforts and we work together to push this over. And well, I will talk hours about my team. I'm very proud of them. I would go to the end of the world and back with them. And also our advisors. We attracted people that is very talented, but especially very aligned with our values. And this is information for the, okay. This is an explanation of how we divide the risk. We have a different way of evaluation. Since we don't have data, as I say, we relate on circles of trust and the incentives. So the originator and the auditor have to have skin in the game. So they stake for every loan, they stake 20% as warranty. This is not the cost for the money. This is a deposit they do. So the loan originator stakes 20% of the amount they want to lend. The auditor, in order to validate the originator, they recommend it, stakes another 20%. And then 60% is open to our community. Only this 60% gets the rewards because that's their incentive. Our auditor and the originators don't get a reward because they are related to the business they are funding, okay? So in case of a default, the loan originators' ethics are sold to cover for the default. If 20% wouldn't be enough, then the auditors' ethics are sold. And only if those were not enough, the stakers would be sold. And if this line together wouldn't cover, because we have to cover also for the interest or because of the volatility of the token is not enough, then we have that 50% I talked to you about, the compensation system. So this makes that is totally cover the investing from the lender. And this wouldn't be possible without DeFi. We are connecting DeFi to the productive economy, and this wouldn't be possible with the traditional financial system because the default is programmed. It will take just the ethics from the first line and then the second and then the third. No? It's an organized way of assuming the responsibility. And then I think we have finished until here. We'll let some time for questions and comments and answers. I would love you to take home these 3 small thinkings. Money is just a tool to provide well-being and happiness. Powerful tools are good or evil depending on how we use them. And thanks to decentralization, we can make great things with our little hands. I wanted to post my LinkedIn, but I thought it was not able to, you cannot copy from the screen. So since I have two last names, it's very easy to find me. It's Gabriela Chanvaldovinos, and also our webpage is over there. So thank you again for giving me the chance to share this. And I don't know if you want to talk about the experiences or questions or doubts you have. I'm very happy to share them.
Yeah, Gabriela, thank you so much. First of all, congratulations. Amazing the work you're doing. I definitely want to open it up, but I have a couple questions maybe just to start the conversation. One of my first questions is, it's easy to see that people who are already in Web3 are going to be staking, or the investors now after 5 years are starting to, the loaners are starting to get into the process. But my question is, what about the family farmers who may not even have internet or bank accounts? How are you also onboarding them and getting them to be part of this project?
Yeah, that's very important. A lot of people is concerned that technology would be another way of exclusion. And we are proving it is possible to benefit the small farmers even when they don't have connectivity, even when they don't interact directly with the technology. So the first year, we start trying to do this, visiting the communities directly, organizing a small group of 20 persons, and naming one of them the representative and asking him or her to come down to the city to activate a wallet. But I think it's too early. The user experience is still very difficult, very complex. So we designed the structure to have this originator, which is not an intermediary, but a local partner. So it's the person in the cooperative, for example, the ones that opens the wallet, and this wallet receives the funds. So it's the cooperative, the ones that use an exchange and his bank account to recover the funds and to give them to the farmers in their local currency. And the same way, when the farmers pay back the loan and the interest, the cooperative converts, the originator, let's say, converts this fiat into the stable coin to satisfy the smart contract. But we are very happy to say that this is evolving very fast. So we expect in 1 year or more or less, the farmers will be able to have their own wallets, because this is evolving, because internet is, the infrastructure is being built, the Skylink and everything. So we are quite confident that very soon the farmers will be able to have connectivity, and this will improve their access to the technology, so we could provide traceability to the funds to the very final user. And here we are talking about incentives. There's a lot of things to tell, and I don't know how much I have the time to say, but we just made a partnership with Toucan and with SolidWorks, which are protocols working with carbon credit sequestration, with carbon sequestration credits, sorry. And farmers are excluded, small farmers are excluded from these markets because they only work with very huge units. So we convince them that if you put together all the farmers, it's a huge surface that needs to be addressed. So we are working in providing access for small scale carbon credits. And once we do it, we will tell the farmers, you are the guardians of the trees. You have done this without knowing that you are adding value to the planet. And now you're going to receive a benefit for this. But in order to have access to this benefit that you didn't expect, you need to open a wallet. So this would be the incentive for them to open the wallets, and then they would be able to interact with this.
Amazing, amazing. And I wanted to go back, just one thing that you touched on, which was the loan originators, the risk auditors, and the ethics stakers. Could you just tell me one more time, what are the incentives for each of those?
Yes, we start from the farmers. From the farmers, the incentives are that they are getting money that is up to 70 times cheaper than the money they are getting now, and then they can count of it in the moment they need it. So, and we also help them to commercialize their coffee. That's good for us and good for them, because they have access to a better price, and we make sure they pay because they are interested in selling their coffee, because we access international markets, but they only trade the coffee from the farmers we are financing. So that would be like the very basic
incentives for the farmers. Then for the lender, what's the incentive? They get 8% annual return for investing into the farmers and for creating impact. It can be up to 10% depending on different models that we have. So that would be the lender. You are having superpowers with your money. You are investing into creating well-being, while at the same time you're getting a benefit. Because we only donate. Philanthropics are amazing, but they are not solving a problem that is so huge. We need to massively incorporate the unbanked. And when you create this mutual benefit, it's way easier to incentivize this behavior. So that's the lender. And the staker. When the staker stakes on behalf of a community, he's willing to absorb the risk of first losses in case there were. So they are incentivized. We started for the first project we opened with this system, since nobody knew and we needed to promote this trust. We offer 100% rewards for the investing. So to say you buy 50 ethics and you stake them, and these stake ethics are there until the farmers pay back and your warranty is no longer needed. But in the meantime, you get this yield of another 50 ethics. But the second time we open a staking pool, we reduce it to 40% rewards. And it was completed in 2 hours. So the next time it's like, since we are proving we are trustworthy, maybe we don't need to offer such a big reward. So we start lowering, and we would adjust this volume of reward depending on the reaction of the stakers. And for the loan originator, as I was explaining, his business is make it bigger by the finance they get from EticHub. They are not a microfinancial that get money at that rate and give it at a higher rate, no, but uses the money to boost the business they already have with the farmers. For the auditors get 2%, as it's a fee from the paid loans, but also the auditors are involved with the originators. Like they are maybe the other profile I didn't mention, it's accelerators, for example, AgTech accelerators. So if we tell the accelerator, a trusted accelerator, we say, we can finance your startups. This 2% he gets from benefit is not the real attractive, but knowing that your startups where you have equity are being financed. So we align the incentives. And the last one would be, no, I think we are completed with those ones. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And this is something you said on the app that I could go on, for example, today and begin staking.
Yes, we are very happy to say. Okay, since we started in 2018, please remember that only Ethereum was available back then with enough complexity for smart contracts. There was a Stellar and some others, but the complexity of the smart contracts we needed, it was only available on Ethereum. And at the beginning, our lending platform worked with Ether because there were not the stable coins. And then we implemented the stable coins, and then Ethereum became very expensive because of the gas. So we migrated to DAI, and then we migrated to XDAI. So that's an evolution. And last month during Paris Business Blockchain Week, we launched it on Celo. So now you can invest, you can buy bonds, investing bonds for 3, 6, or 12 months, or you can do direct lending. And you can do this with Celo dollars, or you can do it with XDAI. Yeah, you just get into the platform. I say it's never been so easy to generate impact like now with the blockchain. So I invite you to visit our platform. If you go to etichub.com, from there you can go to the lending platform or the staking platform, and you will see all the information. We are working very hard to make this easily understandable for the people, because we know the barrier that the technology represents. And be patient, please, because I think you can use it right now, but we are working to make it even more easier. There's a second design that's coming, I think, before 1 month, to make the information more easily more easy for the users. But it's been a huge challenge because at the beginning you needed to download MetaMask and everything, and now we are using Magic. So Magic is a protocol that generates a wallet with your email. So it's quite more friendlier, and I'm sure we will evolve a lot with that.
Awesome. I wanted to read just a couple questions that were in the chat during your talk. One is from Thomas, and his question is, how come a lot of the refi space in Web3 is in Spanish-speaking countries in Latin America?
Well, that's easy to answer. Because we need huge solutions where huge problems are. The other place where there are plenty of projects, it's Africa and Southeast Asia. Why? Because in Europe, we can improve things, of course, but things in general work properly compared to emerging economies. Think on Venezuela. Think on your banking savings worth nothing because of the irresponsible management of the politicians. So where huge problems are, huge solutions are needed. And some people criticize a bit, for example, El Salvador. But El Salvador has had a terrible situation. 70% of the population is excluded from the financial system. So even if the solution is not perfect, any improvement is welcome. So I think that's why Latin America has these deep problems related to their financial system. So that's why I think the biggest protocols are being launched there.
Thank you. And another question from Funsho, who's asking, can this model work for cocoa or maize farmers?
Yes. As I was saying, we start with coffee because it's an industry we know very well. And I like to do this similarity to the book for Amazon. And the next crops we are going to work with are long-term agroforestry ones with trees. Because with trees, we can provide this additional income for the farmers for the ecological services they are giving. But I think this will evolve because if we can close this supply chain we were talking about, imagine corn. I don't know anything about corn as much as I know about coffee, but we relate with these circles of trust because the originator has to be someone that has a lot of experience in this area. So if we connect them with the commercial part, we close the circle and then we can work with this, of course. And we name ourselves EticHub, not Coffee Hub or Agri Hub, because this is how we are starting. But we believe this is a very ambitious program, a project that we are doing, and we are confident it will grow a lot more.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree. I think this can be, in the future, will be expanded to many more markets. And the next question is from Alejandro, who is asking, what is the importance of mandatory education in terms of social impact that future generations may generate?
Can you elaborate a bit more about mandatory education?
Yeah, I'm going to invite Alejandro to elaborate. If you can type into the chat. Here he is. Let me see if I can.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hi Gabriela, nice to meet you. I actually come from Spain too, and I live in Valencia. And I actually wanted to rephrase it to the extent when you were mentioning that you're EticHub, not Coffee Hub, if that kind of systems could be in a way related to the educational sector, because I happen to be working in a project that is trying to give value to the work that students are doing and actually introduce it to a game where we speak about sustainable development. So we use incentive-based systems with points that could essentially give value of that content or work that a secondary school student is doing in La ESO, for example, in Spain, and actually have that work in some kind of simple game where they are presented to certain incentives. So we're
okay, I get it. Yeah, kind of earn for learn. No, that
correct.
yeah. As I was saying, the importance of crypto is that you can create the incentives. So in this case, you can incentivize the students for learning because they would be rewarded for this. If you find the proper way of connecting the logic of why should I learn? Because someone is benefiting from my learning, from my training, because they will get a value out of the value I'm providing to the pool. So in that way, I'm sure EticHub can be an inspiration. It's not like we can copy and paste directly because we studied very much the supply chain we're working with, and an education supply chain, it's a bit different. It has its own nature, its own characteristics, but I'm quite sure that it can work as an inspiration to, this is like one of the values I love about blockchain is its composability, that you can take blocks and put them together, like traceability. I won't put my partners, my developers, to do a traceability protocol when there are already plenty of them. So the moment we need one to implement it, because we have a lot of providers and vendors, we will implement something that is already there in the market, and we focus on what we are doing. So in that way, I think there's like interchangeable pieces or ideas that can be adapted to it, of course.
Excellent. And there's another question here from Robert, who's asking, how can we collaborate in your great project?
It's very easy. You can, we have a community. Well, obviously you can lend or stake, that's once, and also spread word of it, because we've been too focused on developing the solution and very little about communicating it. A lot of people says you should have millions of lenders and millions of users, and yet it's not that easy to use the technology. Now it's easy, but 2 years ago it wasn't. So we have I would invite you to join our community or Discord or Telegram channel, because you can provide value to the project with your ideas, with your feedback. We are also in the moment we have the time to do this, we want also to make like a list, like an airdrop community list for kind of what's it? Sorry, I'm mixing words. Kind of rewarding of community for adding value or for doing some task that can be done by third parties, like small studies or small documentaries or different ways. It's just, I invite you to involve into EticHub, because we have always been very open to new ideas, and we listen what the community say. I would love to say an example of it. When the first default occurred, at the same time, a farmer died because of an accident, and the community instantly said, can we do something? Can we open a wallet to provide some donation for the family to cover for this and that? And then talking about this, they said, why don't we implement that the default, it's also covered in case of death? Like if a farmer is dead, the compensation system includes this as something that has to be covered. So you don't affect the other farmers that are part of the group because it was left unpaid. And that was something beautiful that the community proposed. So we interact a lot with our community. We wanted to be a DAO since 2018, but it was very difficult to convince the investors. So we started as an equity company, but we are always acting as a proto DAO, and we want to launch a DAO. We will start with the basis by the end of the year, but I invite you to join our Discord, which acts like every time a new originator is there, he has to propose our community the impact that's going to be generated with these new originators. So if our community validates it, then we put it in the platform, besides all the due diligence the team does.
That's beautiful. I love the interaction and the focus on the community. There's another question from Funsho, who's asking, are you open to collaborating with farmers in Nigeria?
Of course, we are going to work with cashew producers in Senegal. And just in order to be able to go to Nigeria, obviously, Africa is very interesting. The problem is Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. It's a huge problem. As I was saying, 1.2 billion small farmers. are in the need of this affordable financing. So I will be happy to get in touch. As I was saying, since we cannot do the due diligence for a farmer in Nigeria, for example, we would need an auditor, a validated auditor, to recommend this originator, or the originator to be someone that has already some of the trust work done. Just get in contact with me, because I'm in charge of that part of the project. So get in contact with me through LinkedIn, and we can talk about this. Thank you.
Gabriela, thank you so much. Before we go, I was wondering if you could just define for everyone, or maybe just mention a word about what is regenerative finance from your point of view.
Yes, there are lots of discussions about this. I've been in many forums, and some of people wanted to monopolize regenerative regarding to the trees. But I think regenerative means that you generate more. Like sustainable, it's like as things were, keeping them, not spending them, keeping the same. And regenerative is producing more. So for me, regenerative, as I was saying at the beginning, is generating more than the one you take. So for us, we take a small fee for every loan. So we need to generate millions of loans, because the farmer gets more than we get, every farmer, but then all put together, we get our share. So it's very important to design the system in a way that you are delivering more value than the one you are extracting. That would be for me regenerative, either finance, either agricultural systems, either anything.
Gabriela, I wanted to thank you so much for coming to speak with us. And I just wanted to know if there's any last thing that you want to leave us with, or questions you want the participants to think about before we close the session.
Yeah, as I was writing in I have another meeting, and I'm very happy that we ended so in time. I would love to take this idea to home, that the planet is the main source of resources. Nature is more valuable asset. And we have to think that capital, it's also this nature, and make our counts or maths well done. Don't forget out some expenses that are there, which is nature, for example, and especially to think that we all have superpowers, that regarding supply chains or shopping decisions can change the world. If you buy coffee from a sustainable producer, you are taking care of the environment. If you buy it for an intensive producer, you know all the trees were cut down to have a more intense production. So those that we have the luck of eat 3 times a day have a powerful decision into what we eat, into what we drink, or what we dress. It's just this thinking of the responsibility. We may not think of our everyday decisions have such an impact in the world. So I would ask you to meditate a bit about this, and about the beautiful planet we still have, and how to keep it and to regenerate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. And before everyone goes, I just want to remind everyone for an opportunity from Unit Masters that Solana, and I'm putting it in the chat, Breakpoint is happening in Lisbon. And we are going to be giving out some tickets or passes to participate. So there's a link there. Okay, Gabriela, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Very happy to be here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So for the rest of the Unit Masters community, I just wanted to say that if you're interested in going to Solana Breakpoint, there's an application, and you can just go down to the bottom. There's a place to apply. There's a place to apply for students. And then there's a second application, a form to fill out with Unit Masters. Let me find it 1 second. Here it is. Wonderful. And we'll also be putting those in the community chats. But I encourage people, if you're looking for a ticket to Solana Breakpoint, to go ahead and fill those out. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to someone in the group chat. So I want to thank you all again, and to all of the unit masters, participants, and also the team that has helped put this together. So thank you all, and we'll see you tomorrow, same time, for the demo session. See you all later.